half-truths only added up to a whole lie. Stated author Alexandra Bracken. And it's true. When you only have partial information about something like learning Spanish, well, these facts, so to speak, can have you actually spinning your wheels so much that they prevent you from actually seeing the progress that you want. I don't want that for you. So today we're busting 3 of these half-truths so that you can start seeing the results that you're really after. Comencemos, amigos. What's up, language leaders? Welcome back to another video, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Erica. Here I publish Spanish strategies, stories, lessons, and listening practice to help you love, learn, and live the Spanish language far beyond the classroom setting. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, subscribe, hit that notification bell, join the fam. We're having a lot of fun over here. Now, before we dive into today's topic, I want to let you know that if you are a big picture person like me and you like to see visually kind of the whole picture instead of a snapshot of information, I do go much deeper into this topic in my free workshop, specifically created for upper beginner, intermediate Spanish learners, where I teach you how to tackle your biggest struggles without ever being bored or overwhelmed again. You can check out that free workshop at ericaraylanguage.com/intermediate workshop, or just click on the link below. But by way of an introduction, let's get into these 3 half-truths that you've been told about learning Spanish. The first has to do with vocabulary. So you've probably heard that in order to learn vocabulary effectively, you need to put those words that you're trying to learn into a sentence. Now, context is definitely so important. I'd say it's the most important thing to learn vocabulary. So this advice is definitely a step up from the random drilling individual vocabulary words with flashcards and things like that. But there's still something missing. If the sentences that you're creating or that are being created for you are still as random and disconnected as the vocabulary words themselves, it's only going to do so much to help you retain that vocabulary. So before you create sentences with your vocabulary words, thinking that that's going to help you remember them, ask yourself this question: am I actually about to use these sentences? If you are, if you can clearly see yourself using these particular sentences, you can kind of picture it in your mind, you know more or less who you're going to be speaking them to, then by all means, script it, learn it, and use it. The truth is, even if you're creating sentences, if they are completely irrelevant to you, then it's still going to be almost just as hard to retain the vocabulary in it because the whole sentence is going to just leave. You don't need to use it. But this presents a problem because sometimes we want to continue to progress with our Spanish, but we may not have a particular speaking goal in mind. We just want to learn these words so that we have them when we need them, right? Well, don't worry, there is still a solution for that. Instead of creating random sentences yourself, you can grab prepared sentences that come from a context, and not just any context, something that's either fun and interesting to you or relevant to you that you can see yourself using in the future. It's already in Spanish. You have an inkling that it's probably accurate. Grab sentences that contain the vocabulary words that you would like to be able to remember. If you'd like to learn travel vocabulary to prepare for your next trip, can you find a fun story about travel and take some of the sentences from there? Even if you don't have a particular vocabulary set in mind that you would like to learn, the same thing applies. By starting with a context that's just interesting or fun for you, you're still going to notice certain words and phrases and think, I'm definitely going to need that. I really want to learn that. Just make a note of them. Once you have those sentences, well, the possibilities are kind of endless from there. There are so many things that you can do to practice with them so that that input starts to turn into potential output. You can speak them out loud. You can rewrite them. You can change the point of view. You can do sentence variations where you're substituting some vocabulary words in the sentence for others, just seeing what you can come up with. Why is this better than just creating random sentences? Well, even if the vision of you yourself speaking these sentences still isn't clear in your mind, you're probably invested in the person who is saying them, whether because you respect their opinion or you're invested in the character in your story, for example. There is still context there that has some kind of meaning to you, and this creates an anchor that your brain needs to learn this vocabulary. Be very active with it. Bottom line, if the source of information is interesting to you, whether because it's just fun or because it's highly relevant to things that you can see yourself using, then it's going to be so much easier to make that vocabulary stick, even if you don't have the opportunity to use it in conversation right away. Half-truth number 2 has to do with passive listening, or even just listening in general. If you want to learn a language easily, all you have to do is listen to it passively. That's it. And people will back this up by saying, well, I learned English by watching TV. And you think, wow, you learned English by watching TV. That's incredible. But when I actually talk to people who make that statement, well, the rest of the conversation could go like this. I'm like, you learned English by watching TV. Incredible. I sure did. And my brother and I, we would act out the scenes of our favorite movies. Okay, so we actually have some speaking going on there. Sometimes I would turn on the subtitles so that kind of helped me see what they were saying. We have some reading going on there. And at school, I had this really cool teacher who would act out what she was saying when she would read books. So even though I hated reading at first, I did start to like to read the books that she would read to us first. Okay, so we have some listening and varied context there with the comprehensible input, with the visuals. We have more reading. And then when I would play with the kids at school, a lot of the games were the same that we would play in our home country. So since I knew the games, I started to understand what they were saying and I was able to participate. So there we have listening in a completely different context, visual stimulation, imitating, speaking. A lot more went into it than I learned English from watching TV. There's always more to it, even if that person doesn't realize it themselves. The truth is, passive listening, so that listening where it's kind of in the background, is really nice for improving your intonation, for hearing the flow of the language, for improving your pronunciation, starting to reduce your intimidation, because the more you listen to a language, the less foreign it actually sounds to your brain. And that does prime your brain to be able to learn these words, because it no longer sounds like something completely irrelevant. You're so used to hearing the sounds. It also helps to reinforce vocabulary and expressions that you already know, or pick up on a few new ones that sound similar to the language that you already know. But there are a lot of limitations with passive listening. To learn brand new vocabulary only in that way that you've never been exposed to, that are not even cognate, so they don't even sound like the language that you know, for you to even guess the meaning. Maybe you don't even have any visual clues to help you out with the context. It is very hard to learn brand new vocabulary if you're just kind of passively listening, watching TV, doing nothing else with your language program. Passive listening is also not great to help you break apart connected speech. So those words that just get slurred together, and if you don't even know the words in the first place, it's very hard to distinguish them, let alone know what they mean. In order to be able to accomplish those things, to learn brand new vocabulary, to start to pick apart that connected speech, you need a more active listening approach and at the comprehensible input level. So even if it's just a few minutes a day, take some time to listen actively. Really focus, try to follow along with what is being said. If you have some text to go along with the listening, then you can add that in later. And you're going to notice that you won't have to pull out a dictionary for every single unknown word, because you're going to be able to deduce so much from context when you're actually actively listening. You can listen to something multiple times and get more out of it every time. And then we do have those additional aids of dictionaries, or maybe what you're working with has a translation or an explanation just to get you that much further. And remember that listening is only one of the 4 fundamental elements of language. You're listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Combining all of those things is the way to improve your Spanish the fastest. Half-truth number 3. You need to speak a lot to become a great Spanish speaker. Well, you do need to speak in order to become a good speaker, but there's still so much information missing from that. If you're a person who is interested in continually improving your speaking, then you have to be doing other things than just speaking. Have you developed the skills to self-correct yourself when you are noticing that the more you expose yourself to the language through listening and reading, the more you're seeing that certain things that you're saying just aren't lining up? So you can make some adjustments there. Or do you have someone to help you with corrections? This is something that we especially need to pay attention to when we're reaching that level where we can have a conversation and we are understood, because we can start to feel confident that, well, at least I can make myself understood, which is great. It's amazing. But learning to make those adjustments will make it even better. If not, you will find yourself stuck at the same level of speaking, potentially forever, if you don't develop those systems and skills necessary to improve and to correct your speaking. So to recap, half-truth number 1, putting your vocabulary words into sentences is what you need to remember vocabulary. Truth, those sentences either need to be relevant to you or be pulled from an interesting or memorable context in order to be truly effective. Half-truth number 2, if you want to learn a language easily, all you have to do is listen passively. Truth, you must combine passive listening with active listening, as well as all of the other fundamental language skills, including reading, writing, and speaking, for best results. Half-truth number 3, to improve your speaking, just speak a lot. Get in all the speaking opportunities that you can. Fact, if you don't receive any corrections, whether that's developing the skill of self-correction or getting feedback from someone else, you'll fossilize errors and plateau in your abilities. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. Again, we're just scratching the surface here. So if you want kind of the full picture, A to Z, of what you need to do at this level, if you've been learning Spanish for a little while, you're able to make yourself understood, you understand quite a bit, but you feel stuck right there without being able to improve, I really want to help you get past that point. So join me on that free workshop. It is recurring. You can choose a time that's the most convenient for you by going to ericaraelanguage.com/intermediate workshop or clicking the link below. That's all for today, guys. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, don't forget to go out and live your new language today. Bye-bye.